Just start whenever.
Yes.
Okay. In politics today, two main aspects are military and the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and economics, either home and around the world. And I believe these two can be connected, and my claim for tonight is a surge in military spending could help the economy in the long run. Not like short term in the next year, but I think in the next 5 to 10 years. So my major support for this is because an increase in military budget would help out the war, and so therefore it would also shrink the time that we spend in Iraq and Afghanistan. It would allow the military to spend for money on missions, so we could be there and be doing stuff more than when they don't have money to spend on like airplanes and bullets and stuff. And it would also end the war, allowing us to, instead of spending on military budget, we could spend it on other things like healthcare reforms and all the things that Obama was trying to do. And this has happened in the past century. Every major war that we have fought, after the war ended, the military budget decreased substantially, and housing prices went down, and the economy more evened out. And an example of this is after World War II. In 1945, 40% of our GDP, which is gross domestic product, which is how much money we're getting in and spending, was at 40% of it was military, where in 1948, which was 3 years after the war ended, military budget was only around 5%. So it decreased by about 35%, which is fairly substantial. Also, with surge in military spending, we could spend it on new technologies that would help out the military themselves and eventually the public after these technologies become used around the world. And the military would have more money to spend on the project if we gave a surge in money over the next year. And this would help the soldiers with new weapons to fight the war against like terrorists. And it also protect our soldiers from like explosive devices, IEDs, and that sort of thing. And also, an increase in military spending means an increase in the defense industry, like aerospace or tanks or funding to build new weapons. And this helps the economy in general. Like, for an example, in California during early 1990s, it was heavily an aerospace industry, but once it was cut, the economy of California also decreased after aerospace industry was decreased. So there's a correlation between these two affecting the economy in general. And if the economy was to if the defense industry got more money, then they would be able to spread this out to their employers and employees, and everyone would start getting more money to spend elsewhere, and it would help everyone else. And also, military technology that is used in public nowadays was usually technology in public is now used to be used in military, like GPS used to be a military project. So if we put money into the military and they build new technologies, eventually we will be able to use them, like cell phones, radio, or Jeeps even. These are all projects that the military use to help us now. So I think overall, a surge in military spending would help the economy in the long run. And the surge is over like a year or so, because that should give us enough time to pull out of Iraq and Afghanistan, but still leave us with enough money for other things. And it's because it would help the war end sooner, and it would also give us better technology that would help finance other things. That's really quick.
All right, thank you. Applause is usually appropriate at the end of the person's speech. All right, Josh, your proposition is clearly stated. It's a little bit broad. The secondary claims, you preview them, but they all run together and you need some numerical signposting. I didn't think the signposting internally on those points was very clear, and as a consequence, a lot of things tended to run together. Your supporting information, the evidence that you have, mostly you rely on examples. You've got spending at the end of World War II. You mentioned California and the aerospace industry. There aren't any sources given on any of those things, especially on the second one. I think that's a little bit problematic. Everything else is a hypothetical example, and you're making big inferences off of those things. The links between spending and the success or ending the war in Iraq or Afghanistan sooner if we had a surge in spending, I think that that's something that needs a heck of a lot more proof. You know, that there are potential benefits of any military spending is probably not in dispute. The question is, if we spent a lot more now, is that going to have the impact that you're talking about over the next few years? And I'm not sure that it's clear. You kind of explained what the theory is behind this. I'm not sure that you proved it. You did a nice job speaking to the audience, despite the fact that we're all coughing out here. Sorry about that interruption occasionally. Like I said, mostly you're relying on hypothetical examples, a couple that you make historical references to, but there's not a lot of source citation on any of that information, and I think that's a bit problematic. But thank you for being our first speaker this evening. We appreciate it.